Welcome to the FISU Dual Career webinar series. My name is Aku Nikander from University of Jyväskylä and from Psychology Department, and I'm also representative of FISU Education Committee, and I will act as a moderator in this webinar. And as this webinar series aims to better understand dual career issues and challenges, we are really at the heart of the matter today. As first, Professor Natalia Stambulova will have a presentation about the student athletes crisis, and followed by Lara Zeheb's talk about her experiences being on a dual career journey as a student athlete. So we have a nice window to see how theory and experience of an athlete are intertwined. And as this webinar series also aims to stimulate knowledge exchange between student athletes, universities, and National University Sport Federation. Therefore, I'm happy that there has been quite amount of registration today, and I'm confident that we will gain knowledge and resources to utilize in our local communities to provide opportunities for our athletes to reach their potential. At the beginning, about the schedule and some instructions as well. So each presentation will take approximately 25 to 30 minutes, which will leave us 25 minutes for the questions and joint discussion after both presentations. So we have both presentations in the row, which after we are gonna have the discussion. So if you come up with the question during the presentation, you can write those on the chat box or make notes, and then by raising your hand, you're able to share your valuable insights and thoughts and comments about today's topic and the presentations. And before giving the floor to today's great speakers, I will shortly introduce today's team. And as we know, in the context of sport, nowadays, dual career includes the requirement for athletes to successfully initiate, develop, and finalize an elite sporting career as a part of a lifelong career in combination with the pursuit of education or work, as well as other domains which are of importance from developmental perspective at different stages of life, such as taking up a role in society, developing an identity and a partner relationship or family, and achieving this, maintaining well-being and performing at the highest level in their sports requires psychosocial resources, including individual competencies and environments that support individuals' development. And this lifelong journey, lifelong career path can also be called as a journey. And during this journey, individuals face multiple developmental phases and tasks, transitions, and also crises with their opportunities and challenges. And it's good to understand that development is not a linear process, rather trajectories may show acceleration, stagnation, and even decline. And in addition, these developmental trajectories show high individual variation, and some athletes may have more resources, more coping strategies and competencies to meet the demands of successful dual career at different phases. And this also highlights the importance of individuality and timing of the support. And why being resourcefulness and having adaptive coping strategies are important for dual career athletes nowadays. And as challenges and stress can be a start of more serious issues like a crack in the windscreen that will continue to cause larger damage and may influence the athlete's career paths. And therefore, it is important that athletes possess and invest resources, meaning strengths, for example, time management skills, and other competencies, prioritizing sport and education at the different phase during the academic year, for example. And to approach challenges and stressful situations, it's important to approach challenges and stressful situations in a way that leads to developmental progression rather than maladaptation. And as development can be considered as a mutual accommodation between individual and the environment, and as no one makes it alone, so environments are important features and provide structure and external support. So both informal from the entourage, family, peers, professionals from DC dual career developmental environments, or different dual career assistant programs, for example, that have been developed in the European context, or for example, FISU DC toolkit, they may help the athletes to navigate in their journey. So the crucial question is how athletes gain resources and what is the role of the environment also providing resources for athletes. And to this question, Natalia Stambulova will next provide us insights. And to introduce Dr. Natalia Stambulova, she's a professor emerita of sport and exercise psychology at Halmstad University, Sweden, and her professional experience in sports psychology refer to her work as a teacher, researcher, and practitioner, initially in Russia and since 2001 in Sweden. Her extensive research has been focused on athletes' career development with an emphasis on dual careers, career transitions, developmental crises, and factors involved, including athletes' environments and contexts. And her specialization in applied work is assisting athletes to deal with various career lifestyle issues, and especially with career transitions and crises. And in addition, she has been involved in several national and international expert groups producing position statements and policy documents to guide research and practitioners in supporting athletes in their pursuits of dual career excellence. So I'm really happy that we have Natalia today addressing this topic, important topic that we are discussing today. So Natalia, floor is yours.
Please, can I have my presentation? Yep. Manage it. I don't see how I can. Or I need to find how to adjust him. I need to close. I cannot get access to moving the presentation. I need to take gallery out. Can you help me with that?
I think since we share the screen, we will move the slides. Just say next when you are.
No, it's not possible. I don't want that. I want to have, because when we tried, it was possible, but it was no this gallery on the top. I cannot move the presentation.
Then you need to share your screen. If you want to move the presentations, you need to share your screen. You cannot move the screen of someone else.
Okay. Let's try and share my screen in this case. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
looks good.
Go back. Sorry for this. Okay, hello to everybody, and thank you very much, Bertrand and FISU, for inviting me to contribute to this webinar. Thank you very much, Aku, for kind introduction and making a part even of my speech. And hello to everybody. Thank you for everybody who is online for interest to today's topic. My part today is to talk about student athletes crisis, how to prevent or to help to cope with from a scientist practitioner perspective. I would like to start with a statement from the classic developmental psychologist Lev Vygotsky that was written exactly 100 years ago. This is personality development is a drama. And if we ask why human development is dramatic, why athletes development, student athlete development is dramatic, one potential answer can be It's because student athletes have transitions, and some of these transitions can turn into the crisis. Today, coping with a developmental crisis is seen as a part of athletes striving for career or dual career excellence, an important part of dual career psychological support services. I also need to introduce the recent concept of dual career excellence. That means the student athlete's ability to sustain healthy, successful, and long-lasting dual career in sport with a combination of studies or work. Healthy in this definition means high resourcefulness and adaptability of student athletes. Successful means searching for and maintaining an optimal dual career balance. And long-lasting means going through dual career path with a smooth transitions, including the one from dual career in sport and studies to dual career in sport and work. Another term I used is the optimal dual career balance inside that, embedded into dual career excellence, is the athlete's ability to combine sport and education in a way that they can achieve their individual athletic and educational goals, maintain health and well-being, and also lead satisfactory social and private life. So keep those terms in mind. We will go further. We'll start with what sports psychology research tells us about developmental crisis. In principle, I could start with telling you about theoretical frameworks, but I decided not to do that and formulate the core transition and crisis knowledge in the form of the postulates, which I like to call transition literacy postulates or golden rules of transitions. We'll begin with the transitions because it's an umbrella term for a crisis. Transition research in sports psychology is grounded on the holistic developmental and holistic ecological approaches. Holistic developmental approach considers individual athlete career journey and consider development from holistic point of view. That means like athletic development, psychological, psychosocial, academic, vocational, financial, and legal development, like interrelated. And researchers in this approach, they consider transitions within the career stages and between the stages. Holistic ecological approach is focused on the environment the athletes or student athletes are embedded in. In the dual career, we call it dual career development environments. These particular researchers, they focus on environment as holistic, having the micro level just around the athlete, close environment, and macro environment that is more distant. And also like three domains in that environment: sport domain, educational domain, and the private domain. And typically there is also the dual career support team that the people who try to coordinate between the different domains. Researchers in holistic ecological approach, they actually study transitions from one environment to the next. Why transitions are important? Transitions are turning phases in career development, and they have a power to change individuals' career trajectory to the better or to the worse, depending on how successful people cope with them. Major transitions for student athletes. The most difficult is to the university education, and typically coincide on the athletic level with the junior to senior transition in sport. And also upon university graduation, with the three pathways from here typically is to dual career in sport and work, to professional sport, or to the vocational career if athletic career is terminated at that particular time. All the transitions are holistic. That means starting at one level of development, let's say starting in sport or starting in education, they produce demands and stimulate coping in all other levels of development, psychological, psychosocial, and so forth. So that we should keep in mind. Then we go to the transition process. What is that? How it goes? Transitions are processes that are stimulated by change in the student athlete's life. What can be that change? moving to the new environment, moving to the new level in sport or in education. It can be also changing your coach, selection or deselection, winning or losing, injury and other things. Kind of substantial change that needs reduced demands and need coping. The transition process unfolds as an interplay of demands, resources, barriers, and coping strategies, lead to several successful, less successful transition pathways. What are the demands? Demands are what the person, athlete or student athlete, want to achieve going through the transition. It's like a goals or developmental tasks. Resources are all inside the person and outside. That means support available that facilitate coping, that is helpful. Barriers are all what is inside and outside the person that interfere successful coping. And the coping strategies are what athletes or student athletes do in order to cope using resources or overcome barriers. Athletes' own resources. What resources are? It's the time, energy, health, of course, dual career competencies that are knowledge, skills, attitudes, and experiences related to dual career. I will talk a little bit more about them later. And of course, the social resources like an important relationship, important support network, and other things. These are key factors for transition coping. And perceived resourcefulness, how the person perceives how resourceful he or she is, influence appraisal of transition demands as routine, challenge, or risk or threat. Routine appraisal means that the person feels it's an easy demand. I can easily cope. I can't do that. It's easy, but at the same time, there is no progression and development. Challenge appraisal means demand is a little bit bigger than resources I have. But at the same time, I'm able to develop resources quite rapidly and cope. This is the best way for having progression in development, also following the transition. A risk or threat appraisal means that the person, oh, it's a huge distance between what I need to achieve or want to achieve and what I have and my resources and support available. And this is typically the precondition for turning transition into the crisis transition. Healthy coping means that athletes cope with transition demands or barriers and gain their resources. That lead to developmental progression. That also means successful transition outcome. Okay, that means sometimes people use what's called at all cost strategy. They drain their resources, they can achieve something, but they're not ready for the next demands. And that is at all cost strategy doesn't find healthy. Okay, people learn from the transition coping. At least they add a lot to their experience resources, efficacy resources, and other things. Now we go to the crisis transition directly. Any transition has a potential to turn into a crisis. It's when a person is not resourceful enough to meet the demands leading to developmental conflict. This is the key, what is called dialectics of development. The conflict is between I want, I can, and I must. So that means the most typical conflict is I feel I must, I want to achieve something, but I cannot. That means I don't have enough resources and things like that. But it also might be the other type. Let's say the person doesn't want, that means not enough motivation resources and other things. Okay? Then when developmental conflict is getting shaped, the person starts to experience the set of symptoms. Symptoms of athlete's crisis are the following. First, decrease in self-esteem. The person feels dissatisfied with him or herself. Second is kind of lasting emotional discomfort. Different types of negative emotions coming depending on the person and the situation. Next, the person is getting more sensitive to any mistake, to any new value, and to any forms of social injustice. What perceived okay in the other time now is perceived as a serious thing, getting efficacy down. And the crisis transition process stagnates, and the person feels stuck, like a dead end, in prison, and need professional help. Crisis is a danger, but it's not a tragedy. In the case of efficient support, successful but delayed transition outcome is still possible. But in the case of no prompt support, so-called cost for failure to deal with a transition, and the costs are typically premature dropout from sport or from education, compromised mental health, financial loss, and other kind of negative stuff. And it also leads to developmental decay, that means downside development. And this is an inevitable thing. So we are punished if we don't cope with the crisis. So athletes require, in this case, next round of professional and mainly clinical support. And the last block is about environments and transition support. Something happen? Okay. Yeah. Development can be considered as mutual accommodation between student athletes and dual care development environments. Environments are different in terms of providing support, with some of them being toxic, creating additional transition barriers. Transition support is complementary to athletes' own resources and coping efforts, helping student athletes to maintain control, responsibility for their dual careers. I read quite many research and applied papers on supporting dual career athletes, and I see the trend in some papers that the authors advocate that supporters should take responsibility for athletes' dual careers. I disagree with that completely. And if we open and read the European Union guidelines on athletes' dual careers, it's very clearly written there that student athletes themselves are responsible for their dual careers. Proactive support, that means especially focused on developing dual care competencies, is preferable to prevent crisis. And timely support when student athletes experience crisis symptoms prevents unsuccessful transition outcome. This cost for failure quite unpleasant consequences. So this is kind of the very condensed knowledge about transition crisis. And from here we proceed with how to prevent the crisis transition. Crisis prevention and dual career scenarios. For student athletes, crisis prevention is about how to maintain an optimal dual career balance between sports studies and private life by anticipating timely coping with so-called dual career scenarios. That the term was first introduced within the European project Golden Education and Elite Sport, and then was developed further. And now dual career scenarios are defined as a kind of difficult situations that integrate demands across developmental levels and create pre-transition situations capable to compromise dual care balance. So that means the difficult situation that can push the person to undesirable transition and potentially crisis. So that is why it's important to deal with those pre-transition scenarios in order to avoid undesirable transition. This is taxonomy of those scenarios. First is like maintaining sport and studies with the shifts in the daily life. Maintain study with sport should be prioritized. That means when it's the competition or important training camp, that definitely sport is prioritized, but the difficult part is to maintain the study in order not to get out of the dual care path. The same as maintain sport with education should be prioritized. More difficult part here to maintain sport when it's an important exam or, I don't know, the degree project should be finished and other things. And also maintain personal life combined with sport and studies, especially when important events in the personal life are coming. How to work with that, with those scenarios? There are two types of coping strategies typically identified. assimilation and accommodation coping. Assimilation means to work more on the competencies and apply them. Accommodation coping means, if possible, decrease the demands in order to decrease the gap between demands and resources available. If that doesn't work, student athletes should address for professional help, for sure. And more about that in the Lucas Linier paper, where this taxonomy is presented with a lot of examples and quotes from student athletes. The paper is in my reading list in the very end. Here's a career transition intervention taxonomy. You see it's quite old, but at the same time still okay. So the transition intervention types are situated along the continuum with preventive educational perspective, is how to prevent crisis, and crisis negative consequences coping perspective. And here we have what is the purely preventive, is the career planning. From developmental perspective, it's not simply goal setting, it's a bridging past, present, and the future. Lifestyle management, helping to combine different aspects or different activities during the day, week, months, things like that. Then life skills training, or for student athletes, dual career competences training. Identity development and cultural adaptation. The cultural adaptation mainly for the transnational student athletes who move also to other country, to other culture for the sport and education. And then we come to this end. It's possible actually to help athletes in crisis using educational perspective in intervention when the crisis symptoms are still subclinical. But if it's already the clinical situation, the clinical intervention should be applied to deal, let's say, with a clinical depression or things like this. In my work with student athletes and actually with the athletes, I developed the two applied frameworks, 5 steps career planning and also mobilization model of counseling athletes in crisis. I will share right now the 5 steps career planning very briefly. So it's a clearly preventive intervention. So it includes 5 steps. First, making a framework, that means timeline. And after that, the athlete or student athlete is asked to structure the past. That means, tell me about the most important events in your life before today. Put the time on the timeline and just tell me, how did you cope? Then go to structure the present, means that athletes are asked to list their current activities and then rank them or make a pie chart 3 times with these activities, let's say sports, studies, and social life more, in terms of importance, time spent, and stress level. And that is discussed. Then structure the future. That means think now about your future. What events you can expect during your life? Then during 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year. By the way, difficult question for student athletes, actually for all clients. And then the next is bridge your past, present, and the future. 3 steps here. First, going back to the past again and ask, tell me about the most difficult and the most successful events in your life before today. How did you cope? What lessons did you learn from? That is to make athletes more resourceful for today and for the future. Then go step 5B, that means go from the present to the future. Think again about what is your goal for the next plan for the next year or 3 years. What can you do today in order to be prepared? Should you change your today priorities or not? So that is why we always should go to and back, but always finish in the present, because the person lives in the present. So here, this is the link to the article where it is very described very much in detail. And also know that some student athletes can do it on their own, just being guided by the article. But good also to make it first time with a consultant, and then they can do it independently. Working on dual care competencies. A lot done in terms of that by the Golden Education Elite Sport Project. Major groups of dual care competencies: dual care management, career planning, education, emotional awareness, and social intelligence and adaptability. You can see examples there. There's quite a long list altogether. I would like to emphasize social intelligence and adaptability, how important it is to be able to know where to address for help, to know the people who can help you, to be able to negotiate and things like that. This is kind of quite important for the student athletes who experience, let's say, these difficult dual career scenarios. This project also focuses on dual care support providers' competencies, and that is the group of competencies here. Advocate, cooperate, understand environment, organize, build relationship, empower clients, reflect on self and the clients. Very much is in this Golden Education Elite Sport Handbook for dual care support providers. On the next slide, I provide professional resources to consider, mostly for the practitioners who work with the student athletes, but student athletes can look at that themselves as well. Dual care assistant program website. I have in my reading list this Miguel Torregrosa review of the career assistance programs, where there are examples of dual care assistance programs and websites, and European Dual Care Project website and other useful resources. Especially useful are these first two: online platform, dual care tools, and this is a handbook for dual care support providers I just mentioned. A lot of information about how to develop competencies, exercises, and other things. Now move to the last part, is just how to help if the crisis has happened. The typical crisis transition metaphors is like people perceive that they are like at the dead end. There is no exit. But the task of the practitioner who work with them is to show them, yes, you are at the crossroad. How to turn the dead end situation into the at the crossroads situation. So I will share just how I do that in my work. It's applied framework to a mobilization model of counseling in crisis. Published, you see the date, especially recommend the second one with case examples and other. First, listening, sorting out of clients' information. That means, for me, it's important to know client as a person, client as an athlete, client's environment, the most important relationship, and then the recent past, current situation, and the perceived future. So that is what I need in order to talk about further about the crisis and finding an exit. Then after this information is collected, we identify, prioritize, and articulate the problem issue. When I make a list, what are the issues? What the client is not satisfied. When we talk about people in crisis, always is coming, some negative emotion like anxiety, frustration, and other things. But I would like to understand what are the reasons of that. So it's possible to treat just anxiety or frustration, but at the same time, I would like to prioritize the reason issues to understand them, and also health-related issues, because health is one of the most important resources. Then as we articulated the working issues, we analyzed coping resources and barriers, both internal and external. What help you? What interfere you? But I can say that from my experiences talking to people in crisis, they are very much aware about the barriers. They typically talk about only negative stuff. And in order to get what they think about the positive things, sometimes quite difficult to get. You need all the time to ask additional questions. How is that? How is there? And in this case, yeah, I found that actually they have resources. Not everything, but some. After that, discuss alternatives, coping, stimulating decision. 3 alternatives. This is like a crossroad here that the consultant should communicate: rejection, acceptance, or fighting. Rejection means get out of traumatic situation, finish an activity or toxic relationship. Acceptance means stay in the situation, But to change the perception and attitude to that, take time to develop resources and then decide to move to rejection or to move to fighting. Fighting means the person is resourceful enough or it's possible to quickly rearrange the resources in order to start to change situation the better immediately. Then depending what strategic decision is taken, have goal setting, creating action plan, and then concluding and providing follow-ups. Okay, more with examples in those papers, and also I included that into the reading list. Then I finalized with 2 slides about the recommendations, first to student athletes and then to the supporters. And I can say that recommendations can be very many. I just selected that was related or derived from the presentation. Keep things in perspective to plan near and long-term future based on your past experience and present situation. Adjust plans when necessary. Set realistic goals. Goals should be challenging but achievable. Avoid risky goals that might lead to a crisis. Keep expanding your resources by learning from important events in your life from multiple people. In principle, we can learn from anybody. From some people, we learn what, how, and why to do. From other people, we learn what, how, and why not to do. More resourceful people are also more resilient. There are quite a lot of talks these days about resilience. From developmental perspective, it's very easy. More resourceful people are more resilient, point. Watch your stress. Learn how to use stress to your advantage and how to recognize, avoid, and cope with unnecessary stress. Development is stressful. So therefore, to completely reduce stress is not a good idea. So important to use the stress in a good way, but avoid and cope with unnecessary stress, quite often produced by environment. Stay attuned. That means stay in the control, be proactive. In the journey of life, there is no purely positive or negative events. What is perceived as negative in the short term can turn into the positive in the long term. But unfortunately, vice versa is also true. That means what might look positive in the short term might turn into the negative into the long term. So therefore, it's important all the time to reflect and learn. I like actually this famous saying from Steve Jobs. He said, stay hungry, stay foolish. I think this is one of the mottos we can follow. And then to the supporters, it's more kind of professional. Understand career development, consider athletes as whole persons with a holistic context. Help athletes to prioritize goals, tasks based on analysis of the current situation, resources they have, and foreseeing consequences. Help athletes to develop resources to meet demands, satisfy basic psychological needs, competence, relatedness, and autonomy. Stimulate athletes to create own transition coping strategies that exercise their strong points, compensate for the weaker ones. Make more mature athletes. The more mature athletes are, the more autonomy they need in decision making, even if mistakes are possible. Help athletes to be active agents in their careers to take responsibility. Don't overperform, being too controlling and producing unnecessary stress. Stimulate student athletes and own reflexivity, especially developmental mode of thinking. That means bridging the past, the present, and the future. I want to say that the transition literacy knowledge, the crisis knowledge, is not only for student athletes, it's for everybody. It's for every human being, just to understand the development and also to manage their own life journey better. I would like to thank you, and also some reading list. I recommend Linnea's paper on these scenarios, my paper on the mobilization model. This is the big position statement, very good, I would like to say good summary of the current research on the dual careers, and Miguel Torregrosa paper on the career assistance programs. So that's all. from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia, for a great presentation and really beneficial recommendations for both student athletes and practitioners as well. So looking forward for the discussion in the end. And next we're going to have a student athlete's voice, and Lara is providing her story from her dual career journey. So Lara is currently a civil engineering student at the American University of Beirut, and she's a swimmer on the national team and AUP varsity team captain. She has been swimming professionally for 12 years and also play varsity futsal. In addition, she's the social media manager and team manager for AUP's team. She also holds a position as a FISU student ambassador for the second year and is a first-year member in the FISU Student and Education Committee. So next floor is yours, Lara.
Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. So thank you for the opportunity to present at this dual career webinar as a student athlete, and thank you, Aku, for the introduction. My name is Lara Shayib. However, growing up, I was better known as Lari by my dad's side of the family, Lar from my mom's side of the family, and Princess by my grandfather, my mom's father. Until the age of 10, where I started being known as the swimmer. My competitive swimming career started early on, allowing me to be an elite level student athlete today. As I walk or swim you through my journey over the years, I'll be addressing the various challenges I faced and how I faced them. I started training professionally in 2013, where I progressed quickly and secured a spot on my club's relay team for the Lebanese Summer National Championships. I remember being overjoyed even though we didn't make podium. My mom told me, "This is your first learning experience, you did well." I held on to that notion and jumped back into training in the fall, attending 6th grade, lugging 2 backpacks to school, and leaving class 30 minutes before the final bell rang to make it to training on time. That same year, I won my first 3 medals, 3 bronze podiums for 50-meter backstroke, 50-meter freestyle, and relay. It was an amazing achievement that the whole family celebrated, and it made me hungry for gold at my next competition. In 2015, I started swimming butterfly, which is my current specialty. However, I won my first gold medal along with my teammates in the 4x50 meter relay and got a bronze in the 50-meter butterfly. 2016 is a very significant year in my career, where I won my first individual gold medal, and I couldn't believe it. I was so overwhelmed, and I couldn't not be teary-eyed. I made it my mission to train harder and started training 5 to 7 times per week. Can all the student athletes attending today please share in the chat a victory that boosted your confidence? If anyone could share their experience so that we can see if anyone has been to the same situation and to reflect on your journey as an athlete. We'll get back to the responses in the chat as soon as people start replying. So moving on to 2017, the increased volume of training and increased motivation allowed me to podium first in both the 400 individual medley and 100-meter butterfly at the Lebanese Summer Nationals, qualifying me for my first Arab Championship that same year. I was in 9th grade, where we had official government exams. So some of my professors asked me to give a short presentation to my classmates on how I plan to continue training. All I knew is that no matter how difficult the school year got, I would want to continue training. So I went on to break a national age group record and achieve very good in my exams. 2019, the following year, was also non-stop training, allowing my team and I to break the overall national relay record in Lebanese short course nationals. Up until this year, all I've shown you is a highlight reel. While reaching many of my firsts and achievements, I've also encountered several firsts and defeats. My first time experiencing muscular pain because I wasn't strong enough to endure the volume of training. My first time canceling plans with friends since I had to train, which led me to feeling isolated most of the time. My first time under pressure in school because my grades weren't really doing well. My first disqualification for jumping off the blocks too soon since I was overly nervous. My first injury where I wasn't allowed to train, veering me off track and making my times increase more than I expected. My first detrimental struggle, however, started in 2020 during the COVID pandemic. No training and no school felt like a relief at first, like time finally slowed and I could take a breather. I would train on my own terms, study at my own pace. There were no championships and no pressure to perform. I started my senior year of high school online, September 2020. Around December 2020, however, my whole mom's side of the family and I got sick with COVID, and we all isolated ourselves in hopes of reuniting soon, healthy and happy. My greatest fear, however, became a reality, and the strongest pillar of us all, my grandfather, passed away. I was his princess, and he was my biggest supporter. The effect of his loss is truly immeasurable, and saying it was a difficult time is an understatement. I stopped training, stopped studying, overcome by grief. Yet I had to stay strong for my younger sister, my grandmother, my mother, and the rest of the family. I couldn't be excited like the rest of my cohort, excited to graduate, eager to start university, and ready for the next big adventure. I received my acceptance to the American University of Beirut, my current university, while I was at my grandmother's house, and I wished my grandfather was there to hear it. I started university as a chemical engineering student, September 2021. My first semester was very difficult, where I struggled to adjust to this new environment. It was challenging to keep up with a demanding study schedule, and jumping back into training was always hovering at the back of my mind. I didn't really consider myself a swimmer anymore. I spent as much time as possible with my grandmother, sharing with her how I felt about university and swimming. She would always tell me that my grandfather would have been proud of me and I would have managed the load. I'd like everyone to take a moment to reflect on a setback they've experienced and what it taught you about resilience. Thankfully, with my family and coaches' support, I learned that resilience is moving forward, no matter how tiny the step. And after a setback, there's always a comeback. I switched majors to civil engineering and returned to swimming, setting small, achievable goals to target. 2022 short course nationals were right around the corner, and I hope to make my comeback. Fortunately, my relay team and I broke our previous overall national record, decreasing it by a few seconds. That summer, I won an all-streak gold in long course national. 2023 was my second year of university, and I hadn't yet found stable ground in my major. I visited my academic advisor and explained to her my situation with training and studying. She advised me to take a lighter load if I needed it, and to let all my professors know of my swimming career. I had my sights set on FISU World University Games in Chengdu, so I took fewer credits than the curriculum stated in the spring semester, allowing me to consistently train while increasing my GPA. I qualified for the Summer Games and was beyond eager to represent Lebanon and AUB at the largest sporting stage for university students. I had the honor and privilege to compete as a swimmer, interact with other delegations as a friend, and meet members of FISU's education committee as a student athlete. The Games not only humbled me as an athlete, broadening my horizons beyond the Lebanese and Arab scale, where amazing elite athletes internationally proved their commitment and perseverance to their sports, but also exposed me to different people and cultures and the power of sport to bring people together. Under the advice of my NUSF's past president and current FISU Executive Committee member, Mr. Sami Garabedian, I attended a FISU education session at the Games and learned about the FISU Student Ambassador Program. This program further enlightened the power of sports to bring people together and initiate social change. I was enthusiastic about the prospect of joining and was super grateful when Mr. Sami informed me of my nomination and acceptance into the program. My first ambassador term was just last year, where my action plan focused on leveling the playing field and targeting equity in sports. With the help of FISU, my NUSF, university, friends, and family, I hosted a friendly football game between Palestinian refugees and AUB varsity football team. And it was truly an amazing game where people from different backgrounds shared the love for a sport, showing respect to each other and sportsmanship. I also gathered statistics on the percentage of women in sport for female high school students in Lebanon and attended various schools to give presentations on the opportunities of continuing sports in university. Alongside my ambassador endeavors, I kept swimming, where my varsity team and I won second overall in the Lebanese University Championships. This year, instead of focusing on more firsts to achieve, I hope to aspire to sustain and nurture all the values I learned through sport and my family. My name is Lara Shaib, and a huge part of my life is swimming, but it is not all that I am. You are not your sport. Your sport contributes to your growth as a person. I had to define who I was as a person to help address the question, who am I without my sport? This is a question that often pops up. An identity crisis about the struggle to redefine success without competition is a common theme for most athletes. Therefore, understanding that your sport is added value rather than your whole value is an effective way to navigate uncertainty. Before jumping into some recommendations on managing student-athlete responsibilities, I would like to mention some advice I've gathered from some of my greatest friends who also happen to be the greatest athletes. Kareem said that you must find a reason to keep showing up or keep showing up until you find a reason to. My friend Ahmed Safiya, who is also my current teammate, said patience, patience, and patience again, showing that your sport requires lots of patience to stay on track and follow your goals. Adam said, ask Chase and go out of your way for what you need. No one else will do it for you. You must pursue what you want, regardless of anything. Dina, who is my futsal captain and a med student, said that studies can get tough, but always make time for your sport. Lema, my tennis friend, says that it is important to not take your time as a student athlete for granted and maintain balance in everything that you do. Meanwhile, Wajih said to learn to listen to your body to be able to enjoy your sport and your studies. Moving on to some recommendations for student athletes for managing both their studies and their athletic careers, I would say that you must manage your time effectively. By sticking to a routine and a timetable, you would be saving time and energy day after day, knowing exactly when it's time to train and exactly when it's time to study, allowing your body and mind to regulate and follow this routine. This also allows yourself to set priorities for your knowledge and the knowledge of others, which leads to expectations being met. You must learn from your setbacks, accept that they are a normal part of the process, reflect on your areas in need of improvement, share your problems to either find a solution or to help others avoid the same problem, and implement solutions based on your reflection. Invest in self-care, prioritize your mental health, practice mindfulness, and focus on recovery, on both the body and the mind. And I cannot stress enough on the importance of building a strong support network, consisting of family, coaches, teammates, or friends. A group of people who support you always, who tell you the hard truths you may need to hear, who encourage and motivate you, is very helpful. Seek mentorship from older athletes, coaches, or academic advisors who will keep you on the path of success. Utilize your campus resources. Communicate your needs to your professors, departments of sport, advisors, counseling center, Office of Student Affairs, or other people who can help you, and adjust your schedules or exams accordingly. Develop a growth mindset. Set your goals, visualize them, and manifest them. All in all, the journey of being a student athlete is filled with highs and lows. Dual careers aren't easy, but with the right mindset, support system, and strategies, they are possible. To every student athlete out there, embrace the process, trust your journey, and remember you are more than just your sport. You are limitless. Thank you.
So thank you, Lara, for your unique and inspiring story that you shared, and also valuable insights about the kind of like how which things student athletes could take into consideration and giving you recommendations. And we also got some answers for your challenge to ask about the experience in sport that have boosted confidence. So you can read those from the chat, and I'm really happy that you shared those, because kind of like sharing stories and those can be narrative resources for others. So being a dual career student athlete is part of the kind of like having a social intelligence, is also kind of like sharing the knowledge and the experiences, which can be really valuable for the student at the different phases on their career and in their journey. And next, we are going to have space for discussion. So you can either raise your hand and ask for a turn to ask question or comment, or write those on the chat. But I'm going to have an opening question. So for both of our great speakers, Natalia and Lara. So after hearing each other's presentations, so I would like to hear a reflection on each other's presentations and how they resonate to you, what you have just heard from your perspective.
Okay, who can start? Okay, I can start, Lara. First of all, I can say thank you very much. It's very impressive career journey. I would like to say that your story, we can say your narrative, what you presented today, is an example of like what I talk about, the pursuit of dual career excellence. So what you demonstrated, that you successful in sport, successful in education, you find time for family, personal life, you find time for ambassador activities. Definitely you have a lot of friends and other things. You have a wonderful, as I understand, support network and other things. This is, we can say, almost like ideal situation look like this. Of course, like everybody, you experience some setbacks, as you call them. So that some of them probably were developmental crisis, what I was talking about. But at the same time, you were resourceful enough, or you received the proper help in order to continue further. I think one issue that I paid attention to, that probably one of the keys to your success, is that you are a reflective person, that you reflected on what happened. Yeah. So, and that makes you, help you, what I talk about, bridging the past, present, and the future, that how we can learn from the past experience and how it use it today and then project to the future. If we have that all the time, this like line, this is very helpful. Then I like how you presented those, quotes from the different people in terms of, how they cope, and that might give even this small thing for the other people. And your recommendations are very good, and they are more general than my recommendations, because I was talking about mostly how to prevent crisis and things like that. But in the bigger picture, yes, I would agree with all the recommendations you provided. So thank you very much, and I wish you very good luck in continuing your dual career and further in your life career. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia, for your insightful prospect from a different kind of perspective, and everything you said resonated with me. And thank you for also your reflection on my presentation. I greatly appreciate it. And I would like to thank everyone attending today. A lot of the people present are friends and family, and FISU family is also my family. So thank you everyone for your support, and I think the most important thing is a good support network and good reflection. So having those things is truly amazing, and I hope everyone here can have the same things. So you should pursue that, and you'd have a successful dual career life and life in general.
Yep, good. So what else?
Yes, thank you for your reflection. So there is one question on the chat, which goes, what are the best stress management techniques for student athletes who need to balance their studies and training within a short period?
Okay, so maybe that's a for me question, and maybe Lara can reflect on her experiences. I can
yes.
say I would start with the best stress management is to understand what is the reason of the stress, from where stress is coming. If I know from where stress is coming and deal with that, this is the best stress management strategy. But to identify that, you should reflect. If there is no time and stress because you don't have time, you need to do many things and time not enough. That means you need better planning. Yeah. If you don't have enough energy, you are too tired and need to do many things. That means you need more recovery. You need more mindfulness, things like this. So depending on what stress is coming from, first identify the reason of stress and then deal with the reason. Depending on that, using the resources you have. But to say for within a short period, typically, when I read some research papers about it, we need to reduce athletes or student athlete stress. We need to reduce only unnecessary stress. Consider again, is unnecessary stress you needed to develop and to do better? Or this is a stress that produced from outside. Let's say you think that the coach is not supporting for dual career, and that is kind of, make you stressed and also may lead to a relationship crisis between you and the coach. So in this case, you should be able to negotiate and understand the situation better. I hear quite often from student athletes, they say, like, my coach doesn't support dual career, or my teacher doesn't support dual career. So my first question here, typically after that, okay, how you know about that? How you know that coach doesn't support dual career? How you know that teacher doesn't support dual career? Did they say you directly that I don't support this, I don't want you to have education, the coach says, or I don't want you to do sport, the teacher says? Typically not. They said, no, they didn't say it, but I understand that from what they do. And when we start to talk about what the coaches or teachers do, it appeared that the athlete, in a very short time coming to the teacher or to the coach and want, let's say, flexibility. And the teacher and the coach say, no, I can't. And based on that, the student athlete is making conclusion that the coach or teacher are not supportive for the dual career, but it's not true. The coach and the teacher in this case are not supportive for the strategies, dual career strategies the student athlete use in order to approach the coach or the teacher to negotiate things. So therefore, the student athlete should be able also to put themselves on the place of the teacher or the coach. So actually, when student athletes want flexibility, that something postponing exam or not taking part in the competition that coach wants you to participate or the training camp. So in this case, student athletes should show the teacher or the coach that they understand that to facilitate their life, the coach or the teacher should do additional job. They should rearrange. So making life flexible, more flexible for, or schedule more flexible for the student athlete means more difficult for them. It's additional job for them to rearrange things and things like that. And if the student athletes will negotiate, communicate about that, I understand that, sorry for that, I can do that, I understand. It would be more difficult. I'm sure that the coaches and teachers will be more understanding as well. So the thing is, where the reason of stress is lying, if you find that, you can find the best stress management strategy. Maybe that is enough. If you would like to ask more, I can add more.
If I may add a point on stress. When I was younger, I would always be stressed before a big race. So I approached one of the older athletes and I told her, I'm stressed, I'm nervous. She told me that means you care. So that really stuck with me. And I was stressed because of the race, because I wanted to do well. So as you mentioned, you have to know where the stress is coming from. If you're stressed that you're low on time and you can't study for your exams, it's because you didn't start sooner. So it's all about knowing where your stress is coming from and understanding how to tackle the specific issue that you're stressed about.
When you experience stress, that means energy is mobilized. That's what you need for performance,
yes.
In education or in sport. The most important is not to waste the energy too early, before the competition, for example. Yeah. If you feel too stressed too early, that means better to use relaxation or mindfulness or things like that. But when it's coming closer to, give the stress. Okay, that's fine, because it gives you energy. Okay. So what more we have?
So yes, we have next question is about does individual talent or special abilities and availability of resources key factor in the success of dual career? So what is the role of the talent or kind of like a trait like abilities?
Does individual talent or special ability or availability is a key factor? Yeah, I can say that when we talk about individual talent, so talent is just the word which is a little bit overused. There are many meanings of the word talent. If we talk about innate abilities, it's mostly abilities related to sport and a little bit less to, like say, to educate. Of course, all is important. All what the person has, even in their genetic makeup and other things, all can be in what we can call individual resources pool of the person. So the more the person, have knowledge, experience, positive attitudes to things related to dual career, and of course the experiences. That means all that resources. Health is resource. Efficacy is resource. Let's say your question, Lara, about what boosted your confidence. Yeah, this is efficacy resources. That is, you refer to your successful moments in life and think, I could do that time, and I can do it again. This is your efficacy resource that contribute to your today's situation. It's good to go through that. And sometimes what I also met with communicating with like a student athletes or athletes clients is that they are not aware about resources they have. I mean, it's kind of, I call it sleeping resources. That means they are there, but the people are not aware about that. So that means is reflection about what are my strong points. For example, yeah, this is my major resources. Yeah? So what my weaker points and how I can compensate them by my stronger points. If I will be able to compensate is my resource, So everything that is helpful, all what I learn is getting my resources. So therefore, on one hand, we gain resources almost all the time, even if we don't work specially on that. But if we specially work on that, emphasize that, this is what I can learn and I can add. No, maybe not the use word resources if you don't like it, but actually it's not bad. When we talk about transition, what the major terminology? Demands, resources, barrier, scoping. For the student athletes, not a difficult thing, I'm sure. Keeping in mind what the disciplines you study at the university to understand the transition process, I don't think this is a huge thing. Yeah? So therefore, everything is counted. And we can say the more resourceful you are, the more successful you are in the different things. And in terms of dual career, especially important to to have these dual career competences. The more of them you have, the better you cope, is the research data confirmed in quite many studies. What else?
Yes, so there's going to be kind of like a follow-up.
I cannot read that, sorry.
So there is when we reflect on the past, how can we make sure that our reflection is correct?
The thing is, you know, our perception of our own experiences change with the time, for sure. You know, that's, I cannot say that, well, when I listen to when people tell me, this is how they perceive it today. Maybe when they were in that situation many years ago, they perceived it differently. And the person grows up, mature, and also rethink the past. We rethink the past all the time. Sometimes in defensive manner, if we would like to justify something not really good we did, you know, or we actually rearrange that, our past in terms of, you know, learning some more lessons from, to perceive it more critically than what we perceived it before. It's, you know, reflections are always reflections. And I cannot judge if they are correct or not, because there is no objective truth about reflection. Reflections are subjective. So therefore, it can be only subjective truth about that. So, and maybe if I did, for example, this 5-step career planning, sometimes 2-3 times with the same person. And what happened? Sometimes the past also was a little bit like reorganized and rethought and things like that. Absolutely normal process. And the same with the future. Life develops. There are changing circumstances and other things, and the career plan should be updated for sure. So therefore, it's you know, good to do career planning or redo career planning before important transition, for example. You know, before graduation, let's say. Okay, what more here? I don't see that. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't have any additional, but I have a question for Laura after Natalia's answer. So have you put yourself into doing career planning, and what has been those places or times you've done?
In terms of my athletic career or my university degree?
Like a dual career.
Since I've always been an athlete, I always knew that I'd continue to be an athlete, and I never wanted to stop, even in my university years. Even in my working years, I hope to continue to be an athlete, because it's not merely a title, it's a lifestyle. So I think that as you go and as you grow, and you reflect, you do change minor aspects of your life and your career, whether it's athletic or academic, but the main objective should stay. I switched from chemical engineering to civil engineering because I didn't enjoy one major and I enjoy the other. But all in all, I do wish to stay an engineer and an athlete, and to do something with both aspects of my life to develop sport in my country and in the region.
I would like to add one thing, if possible, what to Lara said.
Yeah.
If in terms of sport as a lifestyle, I am sure that your athletic identity is high and things like that. So, of course, one day will come that you will terminate athletic career, at least on the high level and things like that. You can continue recreational swimming or other sports or exercise, I'm sure, but your, you know, high performance career will be ended. So, and, you know, but your athletic identity will still be with you.
Yes.
Sometimes in the athletic retirement research, we can find some recommendation that athletes, after finishing athletic career, should reduce their athletic identity. I would not recommend to do that. Actually, I am against that. Because the thing is, your athletic identity is the most resourceful identity. what relate to your athletic experiences, majority of your resources relate to sport. So why you should throw that away? You know, you should continue to identify with the athlete and use those resources. The thing is, I finished my athletic career, oh my God, 40 years ago or so. I was quite elite figure skater in the Soviet Union. So that means I was a member of the Soviet Union national team in pair skating. So therefore, I also had a dual career. Even that time, we didn't have that particular term. And I didn't know that I will study dual career. And I would like to say, even at my age, I still have athletic identity. Sometimes in the difficult situation, I come to that. I say, I am an athlete. I have to cope with that. It's fine. It's doable. You know, think like that. This like efficacy resources, a little bit coming from my athletic experience from far ago. Okay, so that, but keep it.
I will hold on to it.
I read here that there's
There is a
you
couple of
mentioned
more
that
questions.
we should structure past, present, and the future. How should we structure the past? You can structure the past from different perspectives. I mean, for that, in 5-step script plan, they recommend like to make a lifeline. On one side, you put 1 point is like when you were born. You can put 0 there or better the year when you were born. And then you put the today, like let's say how old you are now. And then you have the past is between today and when you're born and you're today, and then the future is there. And the present is the point. And I can say the most important structure that means identify events that were significant for you, related to sport, related to anything, related to your life. Lara, when you talk about your childhood, about importance of your grandfather, for example, all that, your father passed away, the grandfather passed away, that was important event. It was important transition you went through. That means it should be there. And then sure, we see, that is what you went through. And here, when people reflect about this, I see where the word transitions, where the person went through, what experiences the person has to deal with. Then it's possible also to focus on what was the most difficult moment in your life before today. Show them on the lifeline. What was, the main value or disqualification or non-qualification, better, of course, the word. So that means, how did you cope? What lessons did you learn? And also in terms of success, in terms of what were the most successful events, how did you cope and what lessons you learned. This is called structuring, It's not that the stream of different events. You identify the key events, and this is already structure. Based on that, you can see even the stages in your career. Also, very interesting for me that among those questions in 5-step script planning, question number 4 is the most difficult, talking about the future. Athletes don't like to talk about the future. That's what I noticed, They would like just to keep their head in sand, I am here, I am absorbed in my, dual career, and then think, what will be next? Okay, I will think about that tomorrow. That happened quite often. So, and that has produced a lot of problems upon athletic retirement. Okay, that is.
Yes, I think we can take the last. Like there is one question about the mobility and transition.
Okay, I would like to read it. So.
Yeah.
In terms of called transnational student athletes, it's a big area. So especially if we deal with European student athletes, many of them would like to go to the United States for athletic scholarship and just dreaming about that or like realizing that. And I know some good examples when European student athletes successfully adjusted in the United States, and this adjustment not only to American university and requirements and everything, but also adjustment to the American culture, educational culture, sport culture, and general culture, I can say. So therefore, that should be the special preparation for that. I also know not good examples about that the person was not ready at all, moving and didn't like the states, didn't like the university, and some people I know who came back. So therefore, the special preparation is needed. So one of the recommendations I gave today, stay attuned, is also stay proactive. Try to prevent the crisis. Try to anticipate what demands can come and be prepared for that. If you cannot, ask for the help. Just recently read a very good paper about one practitioner who actually helped one student to move from Poland to United States, and they were prepared several months in advance to all that move. And the person was able to adjust successfully during just 3-4 months, already was completely adjusted at American University. But at the same time, sometimes student athletes take the cultural adaptation like an easy task. It's not that one. So there is a lot of literature on transnationalism in sport. And if you are interested, just write me. I will recommend you some papers to read.
Yes, and then there is a one about self-administered interventions.
Thank you for sharing. I think that this, like, I don't understand exactly the term self-administered interventions. Yes, just, this is, for me, it's like a strategist. It's not interventions. It's like the strategies the student athletes select, own pace, online courses and other things. That's fine. Just that the person just decide about that. I also think that it's quite important for the student athletes to understand what context I am in. Because there are such a diverse context for student athletes depending on the country, depending on the sport club or university or other things. So the students should first understand their own rights. Obligations for sure, but also the rights. If there's, for example, the student athletes who's like elite athletes is recommended or we call cadet, identified by the federation, so they should have a particular rights, let's say for some flexibility or other things. In some countries, it's a lot of that. In others, not. If I would say, give Sweden as a good example, we have this. Is a national dual career guidelines for university student athletes. And here, all that, we have over 20 universities in Sweden that actually provide as a minimum flexibility of sport and of studies, and also they are related to sport environments and other things. But not all countries are like this. Not all universities are like this. You should understand what are your rights. Second thing is just what support is available, if available. At the universities, at least educational support should be available for sure. Come there, acquaint with the people there. Introduce yourself. And that is in the case that much easier that you can make a phone call or write email and support already know you. That is very important for the quick help and other things. Then is at the same time, negotiate things in advance. Give the coaches and teachers time to rearrange. If you come the last minute, typically you get no. If you would like to get yes, come in advance and also communicate that you understand that it will make additional job for the teacher and the coach, that you understand and you are grateful. To receive yes is much easier in this case. So I also consider it's like a self-administered interventions. Maybe that can be the example. Again, things depend on many, many factors. Your personality, supporter's personality, your context, your experiences, your environment, and other things. You should be able to play within in the best way. That is my wish.
Yes, thank you for a good answer. I have one closing question, kind of like in this transformable world, and where maybe in the future we have more mobility of the student athletes and maybe possibilities for time and place independent studying. So what kind of scenarios we may face and what kind of competencies are required in the future, if we can look a bit on the not the future as we have talked about the past already.
Lara, can you say something? What you think? You are a young person who is just open in front of this new global world.
I think navigating in the future, you have to know what you want and you have to know what to pursue. You have to know who to ask and what to ask, and to always be ready for changes and stay adaptable.
I think that the global changes that happen, first of all, global changes relate to artificial intelligence and things like that. Then the global changes need to quite a tensed international situation altogether right now, not only in Europe, but also in the world. So what we can expect, quite difficult to predict. But we should do our best on our own place. That is my answer.
Thank you.
And I wish you very good luck and thank you for all the comments. And again, if I didn't answer everything, you can write me email. Okay.
Yes, thank you for both of you. And I think we had a nice dialogue between you two and discussion as well, like really valuable practical recommendations for all the participants we had today. So I also thank FISU for organizing this webinar series and also thank you for all the questions that you shared and hope this has been beneficial for you and you gained something for your local environments and communities to take and support athletes. So I wish you all a good springtime and hopefully it will be a lot of sun wherever you are in the globe.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you, Aku. Thank you. That was a good job as well from your side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are done.